Hi, I'm Jennifer Nicely with Pinnacle Real Estate Academy. I'm your go-to when it comes to real estate and real estate education. But today I want to talk to you about a little bit about an entrepreneurship problem that you may be facing, you may have faced, or you may face in the future. And that is called burnout. It happens to all of us. Sometimes it gets out of control and sometimes it's manageable. But there's a difference between overwhelmed, stress, anxiety, too much on your plate, and burnout. Two total different things. So I want you to think about anxiety and depression. Those are two different things. Anxiety is something that you can control. It may pass in a few minutes. It may pass in a few days. But depression, on the other hand, is something that is deep within you that takes a while to get past and to get over. Depression and sadness are not the same thing. Anxiety and depression are not the same thing. So when you look at that, anxiety being more of a surface thing that can quickly pass or change as time progresses, depression is more of something that is harder to get rid of, something that's harder to overcome. Now let's use that as a metaphor for burnout. You may feel stressed, you may feel overwhelmed. That's the same as anxiety. It's something that you could quickly get over. Fix the problem, check off some things on your list, stress starts to go away, overwhelming starts to go away. But burnout, on the other hand, is much like depression. It's harder to get out of. It takes longer for you to get in that. See, the definition of burnout is prolonged high levels of stress for an extended period of time. When you are under high pressures, high stress for a long term, you get into this burnout phase, which makes you feel like you're a little overwhelmed, or it makes you feel like you're very overwhelmed, but you can't get out of it. It doesn't matter how much you take off of your checklist, you still feel this way. So what are some of the characteristics of burnout? Fatigue, foggy brain, can't really form thoughts like you used to, can't really see a clear vision like you used to. You're tired all the time. Even when you wake up in the morning, you tend to be tired. You may have a little motivation, but come 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, you're a little more tired than you've ever been before. Not lunch coma phase, like let's go home and take a nap phase. You're more irritable. You can't seem to find happiness. You can't seem to find happiness within your profession anymore. Even when things are going good, it doesn't really seem good because you have in the back of your head all these other things that need to continue to work, to progress. Burnout is really hard to get out of. So here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how to prevent burnout. Then I want to talk about how to get out of burnout. So let's talk about preventing it first. How do you prevent burnout? Number one, set boundaries. And I know you've heard this your entire profession, and you probably are thinking, yeah, Jennifer, I get it, set boundaries. But what does that actually look like to you? When you set boundaries, you need to schedule appointments for yourself. That means self-care. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to cost you money. So if finances is something that's stressing you out, self-care does not mean you actually have to go pay money. Self-care may be go take a long hot bath, light a candle, read a book, take a walk, get a new hobby, a new habit. Maybe that's taking your dogs for a walk every single night. Maybe it's setting goals to go a little bit further every single night. Maybe it's date night with your spouse. Maybe you haven't had one of those in a while because you have kids and you're being an Uber for your family. Take time for yourself. One thing I want to tell you is when it comes to self-care, that's not scrolling social media. Scrolling social media and vegging out on your phone is not something that is healthy for you. That's escapism. I'm guilty of it. I love TikTok, and I love TikTok because my algorithm has found my soul, and I think it's the funniest thing out there. And I will lay in the bed and I will laugh, 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 and send all my friends all kinds of TikToks and probably get on their nerves about it. But that is a form of escapism for me. And once I realized that that was escapism, I stop doing it as much. Even though it's funny, even though it's great, what happens is if you have high levels of stress and you go home and you veg out to social media and you completely block off your brain from all the stresses you've had from that day or that week or that time period, you're not actually addressing the problem. You're putting a Band-Aid on it. And you're like, I'll deal with it later. Vacations can be a form of escapism too, because you have permission to turn your phones off and permission to not call people back for at least 7 days and permission to not work on those goals for 7 days. But also know that could be a form of escapism. So preventing burnout and maintaining yourself is giving your time for self-care. Another thing for self-care would be reading, or another way to prevent burnout would be reading. Read books. They don't have to be fiction. They don't have to be nonfiction. But reading will rejuvenate you. It will re-motivate you. Another form of prevention would be going to classes. Now, I don't mean necessarily a sit down in class paid class. You could take an online class that's free. You could go to a conference. You can go to a happy hour with someone in your industry that's throwing this get together for networking. When you do those types of things, it rejuvenates you. It keeps you going. It keeps things fresh. It keeps things motivated. But that monotonous routine of high stress for an extended period of time is going to get you into the burnout phase. Now, let's say you are in burnout phase. How do we get out of it? Number one thing you have to do is address it. You've got to know what it is you're even dealing with. If you didn't realize you're burnt out, then how are you going to fix the problem? So addressing what you actually have is number one. Number two, set your schedule. Set your schedule. And when I say this, I mean book time with your family. Make that an appointment. Now, your family doesn't need to know they have an appointment with you. But if clients call you and go, hey, can you show me properties tonight from 6 to 8 p.m.? No, I'm sorry, I have an appointment. They don't need to know it's a dinner date with your family. They just need to know it's blocked off your calendar. I live by my calendar. If I don't, then I'm completely overwhelmed and unorganized. So live by that calendar. Second thing, turn your phones off. You've grown up, your parents said nothing good happens after 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock, whatever it is. Well, when it comes to real estate, nothing needs to happen after 8 o'clock, in my opinion. If I write up an offer at 8 p.m., guess what? The other agent of the deal is probably not going to present it until maybe that evening or the next morning. But the seller may not be responding to it that night either because it's late. It can wait until 8 a.m. the next morning. Banks aren't open, attorneys aren't open until 8 a.m. the next morning. The next thing, give yourself some time. So what a lot of agents do or entrepreneurs do is a consumer or client will give you a call, they'll ask you a question and you'll say, hey, I'll have it to you in an hour. But here's the thing. Now you've put yourself on high levels of stress to get that answer in an hour. And if you don't get that answer in an hour, then what? You feel like a failure. You feel like you've let someone down. When reality is, you couldn't have gotten it in an hour in the first place, but you overpromised. You might not be able to get that HOA to answer the phone within an hour, much less get that response back. So take your time. Slow down. Here's another thing to get yourself out of burnout. Stop comparing yourself to society. Stop comparing yourself to social media. Social media is a highlight reel. You don't hear about all the bad things that people go through, but they go through it because we're human. So stop comparing yourself. I had someone today tell me that they muted someone on Facebook because this person is so successful and they share it all the time and it's one of their icons they want to be like, but reality was it was starting to make her feel bad about herself. So she put them on mute. That's self-care. That's realizing what you're dealing with. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Another thing you need to realize is our world and national speakers and TVs and YouTube channels and all of these mentors that want to guide you, or inspirational people, influencers, they want to tell you hustle, 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 hustle. But reality is that can't happen 100% of the time. You cannot be a hustler 100% of the time in your life. But it sounds really good when you put it out there. It makes them look really good when you think they hustle 100% of the time. But then you start to question yourself, well, what's wrong with me? Maybe that's why I'm not doing X, is because I'm not working day in, day out. That's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. If you are running your business at that kind of hustle, guaranteed something else in your life is suffering. Maybe that's your relationship with your families. Maybe that's your relationship with your friends. Maybe your wallet's good, but your emotional state is not, or your mental state is not. You've got to keep that balance. Now, there's another video on personal and professional balance. So make sure you check that one out, because everyone's balance is different. It's not, society doesn't just say you got to have 50-50 balance. It's completely up to you. But more on that later in another video. When it comes to burnout, go is going to cause burnout. And know that that is not normal and that is not sustainable. So if you are someone who is going through an overwhelming time, a stressful time, maybe you have anxiety, maybe you have some depression, maybe it's leading to burnout, slow down, give yourself some grace, set some boundaries, give yourself some self-care, and don't believe everything you hear on the internet. When it comes to burnout, it takes a long time to get out of that. This is not a light switch. It doesn't happen overnight. Be patient with yourself, realize what you're dealing with, and take your time. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have tons of videos out here for free, from entrepreneurship to real estate to self-care to professional and business life. Check us out. We're releasing videos all the time.